So, look, y'all have seen it, I'm sure. And if you haven't, I really admire your social media ignorance skills. Bravo, bravo, bravo. This week, New York Magazine ran a story about the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation buying a $6 million property in secret, air quotes here, and I'll explain why, and accused the foundation of buying real estate with charity dollars, air quotes again here, and of course, we finna get into it. And then to put the cherry on top, they've been running photos of Lady brunching with my dear sisters, Patrice and Melina, at said property, insinuating, of course, that Lady and my sisters are somehow living it up on charity dollars while the whole rest of the world suffers. These photos are from a YouTube video shoot that I did there at Patrice's request for a video she was doing for her personal YouTube page, reflecting on the anniversary of George Floyd's death and what the last year had brought by way of a powerful movement that swept the globe. Now, the story doesn't say that, though. It just allows you to draw your own conclusions rather than giving you the facts so that you can have an informed opinion. I've said it before, and I'm finna say it again. I am not now, nor have I been since 2017. That's 5 full fucking years, a part of the Black Lives Matter organization. I'm not a part of the global network. I'm not a part of the foundation. I'm not in it. Now, y'all know for the last 5 years, I have been busily building my own organizations, the Black Futures Lab and the Black to the Future Action Fund, working to make Black communities powerful in politics so that we can be powerful in the rest of our lives. So, posting a picture of me with my girlfriends brunching and drinking champagne on that property insinuates that I'm still a part of the leadership of that organization. I'm not, and I have not been for the last 5 years. 5. Now, insinuating that I'm part of the leadership of that organization also implies that I had something to do with the purchase of that house. I did not. In fact, I didn't even know BLM had purchased that house until Monday of this week when I was made aware of this article by my other homegirl. Can you fucking imagine? I didn't even know the article was out there, much less what the fuck was happening. And I really was wondering why my social media was getting trashed with people calling me a thief and demanding to know where the $6 million went. What? The fuck are y'all even talking about? You know what I was doing? I was on an airplane, moving across country. I don't be paying attention to half the shit going on. And the other half I do pay attention to, I do it for you, for the purposes of this podcast and this podcast alone. Now, you can thank me later. Since then, I probably receive about 200 messages a day calling me a thief, telling me to kill myself, warning me that I'm going to get killed or raped. And then, of course, your regular run-of-the-mill, fuck you, die slowly type shit. Now, what the fuck are we even doing here, y'all? About once a year, I get drawn into some bullshit that I ain't got nothing to do with. Last year, when Patrice was getting attacked for buying homes with her own fucking money, I was getting messages about why I bought a $1 million property. What the fuck are y'all talking about? Almost 10 years into this movement, and y'all can't tell that me and Patrice are two distinct and individual humans? Y'all can't tell Black people apart, or what exactly? Now, the year before that, I was apparently a global queen pin who had teamed up with the Chinese Communist Party with a plan for world domination. I mean, y'all are really fucking reaching with this shit. But this time, it's a bridge too far. Patrice and the network have been pretty quiet about this stuff. And I think that was an error, and I told her that shit directly. Staying silent when people talk shit about you and make wild-ass accusations is always a recipe for disaster. Not because you have to respond to every stupid fucking thing that people say about you, because you don't. But in this case, it was an error to remain silent because these stories, these attacks, are a part of a larger and more strategic plan to discredit and delegitimize the most powerful movement in the last 2 decades. Now, the strategy is to peel off support from this movement, particularly the support of white people. Now, Black folk been supporting this movement since before it was BLM, so that's a wash, honey. White folks have been up for grabs. And we saw white people lose their fucking minds when George Floyd was brutally murdered, as the officer who killed him looked into the camera of a bystander while he was doing it. And for the first time in a long while, it wasn't just Black people saying, let's do something about racism. It was white people too. And as a result, because white folks generally don't know what to do about racism, they started dropping coin. And not just coin, but millions of dollars. And that made BLM a very powerful movement and a very powerful organization. It started a foundation, and it started a political action committee to start to shift how power operates. It was right then and there that all this shit started going down. I don't need to agree with everything BLM does or its strategy, but I cannot overlook the timing of these attacks. And trying to bring me into it shows me that this shit is not really a genuine inquiry. What exactly is your argument here besides including me for clickbait? What is the motivation behind trying to tie me to something I had no knowledge of and no decision-making over? Discredit, delegitimize. Now, with that being said, lots of people have asked my opinion on the matter in general. Okay, ladies, so you weren't involved. I got it. But what do you think about it? I mean, do you think it's kosher to use charity dollars for expensive real estate purchases? That's your frame, not mine. Do you think it's fair that BLM used this money for real estate when there are so many activists and organizers who don't have money? What about the families? Well, here's what I think. Number one, I might have made different decisions about how to allocate that money. You might have made different decisions about how to allocate that money. Does it mean that the way that they're allocating money is wrong? Because I might have a different vision for it and you might have had a different vision for it? No, not necessarily. Now, in my organization, I use the resources that we raise to resource Black-led grassroots organizations to change the rules in cities and states, to the tune of at least $1 million a year. But what if you don't like where I'm putting the money? What if there's a group you don't rock with that I rock with? Is it scandalous or is it a different approach? You decide. I would not have spent that money on a campus for artists and activists, me personally. But I'm not opposed to the idea of it. Black folks have been buying property and land now for generations as a way of generating stability and resources for our movement. That's not a secret, and it's not wrong to do. I think BLM should have been more upfront about it, but given what folks have been through over the last 2 years, can you really blame motherfuckers for keeping it low, knowing good and damn well that if they told you a year ago or a month ago, the response probably would have been the same? Now, sometimes people take risks on bold ideas, and not everybody can see the bold vision. And as long as they're doing with it what they said they'd do with it, what's the problem exactly? I just think we need to acknowledge that money in general makes shit weird, especially when you didn't have it and now you do. And money always causes conflict. Y'all know that shit good and well, and that's exactly what's happening here. Number two, on the families. This one for me, it's a no-brainer. Every single one of those families should be supported and taken care of by the people who stole their loved ones. And organizations that you donate to that work to change the rules are hopefully doing the work they purport to do. They should keep you informed about what they're doing and accomplishing. If they're not doing that, find an organization that does. Also, what if instead of spending upwards of 40% of our city budgets on policing, we spent that money instead compensating the survivors of police violence? Now that's something you can fight for in your own city. Number three, when I give my money to something, I also want to know where it goes. If it's an organization, I already assume that some of that money I give is being used to support the organization and its ability to do its work. You know, staffing, printing, light bill, phone bill, meeting expenses, that kind of thing. But you're also giving money to support their strategy for change. And sometimes when you give money, you don't get to weigh in on that strategy. In some organizations, you do get to. If you want to decide where the money goes and more so what the strategy is for that money, join an organization. Next, BLM is not a charity organization in the traditional sense. There are all kinds of not-for-profit organizations. Charitable literally means, according to the dictionary, being kind or generous in giving help or money to those in need. It could mean building people's power to change the rules. It could mean building houses for the homeless. I think the use of the word charity is a really dubious frame for what's happening here. It's also a frame that people use about activism and organizing when they're not totally clear on what activism or organizing is. Charity is much more transactional than organizing is. Charity is more like service work, service provision. You give something and you immediately get something. Organizing is about something different. It's about building relationships that, when leveraged, those relationships build power to change the rules. Perhaps there are some things that BLM has not done that well over the last few years, and only that organization can speak on that. But let's also not forget that there's a lot they have done and are doing right. And that includes changing the country's consciousness and conscience about how we want to live, how we deserve to live, and never giving up on fighting to make Black Lives Matter. Now, as I said before, I'm not there. And I haven't been for a long time. I may have made different choices if I was there. And some of the difference in strategy is why I chose to build my own organization. After all, why spend time tearing down other people's shit when you can build what you want, how you want, your way? Let 1,000 flowers bloom. You get to choose which ones you want in your garden. One last word on this, y'all. There's a dangerous culture of attacking people and running your mouths before you have all the information, and sometimes before you have any information. Now, some of y'all be loud and wrong, including some of y'all I know. I've come to the conclusion that actually some of y'all are actually rooting for BLM to fail. And if that's you, you must really feel like this is your moment and you should just own that. Hey, I never fucked with that shit in the first place. Cool. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But what we ain't gonna do is think that just because you're loud with your disdain and respect that you finna stop my flow. You're not. I'm over here grinding, working to change the laws and build power for Black folks. Get with it or don't, that's fine with me. But the death threats, the rape threats, the accusations and repeating of white supremacist logic, it's not a good look. You're on the wrong side of history, my friend. And I'm not finna let this go. Trust me on that. I am patient and committed and dedicated. So just know I got stamina and endurance. And if you finna take me on, at least take me on for something I actually did. I have a lot of faults. I've made a lot of mistakes. But stealing and thieving and lying ain't one of them. And unless you have receipts to demonstrate otherwise, I invite you to shut the fuck up and take your bullshit elsewhere. And that's that on that. Love, Lady Garza.